A faceted steel body that looks like it was carved from a single ingot of brushed titanium, and a full glass upper deck that wraps this concept in more glazing than most people have in their entire home. That is the first thing this design does to you. It does not ask for your attention. It just takes it. Before we go further, full transparency up front. What you are looking at is a fictional concept, generated by AI. No manufacturer, no price tag, no delivery date. Just a vision. But the design language embedded in this futuristic motorhome, that is very real and very worth unpacking. I am calling it the Nexus EVA drone. And in the next 16 minutes, we are going to walk the exterior, break down the interior logic, analyze the powertrain that would make something like this move, and I am going to give you my honest verdict, including the one detail on this dream motorhome that I would change immediately. There is also something happening at the rear of this luxury RV concept that I genuinely have not seen in any motorhome design before. Real or fictional? I am saving that for when we get there. Let's go. Front face. Let's start at the front, because this is where the Nexus EVA drone makes its first statement, and it is not a subtle one. Most luxury motorhomes, even the expensive ones, have a face that says, Coach. You know the language. A wide windshield, a flat fascia, maybe some chrome work to signal premium. The face is functional. It says, this is a vehicle that moves people comfortably. The Nexus does not speak that language. The front face here is faceted, hard geometric planes meeting at sharp angles, with a low-set primary windshield that sits almost flush with the bodywork. The result is a face that says something completely different. It says, this is a machine built around aerodynamic intent. You can feel the aggression in it even standing still. That windshield angle, by the way, is not just aesthetic. A more reclined glass plane reduces the frontal drag coefficient meaningfully on a vehicle this size, and at motorhome mass, that drag reduction translates directly into range. Every degree of rake is earned. Side profile. Moving to the side, and this is where the proportions of this futuristic motorhome concept really land. The roofline does something I find genuinely unusual. Instead of peaking and falling in the typical coach arc, it steps. You get a primary roof level, which is already tall, and then a secondary raised section above it, glassed almost entirely on three sides. That upper level is not just aesthetic. Based on the glazing, it reads as a habitable zone, a rooftop deck, or a lounge tier with panoramic views in three directions. Think about what that means for you as someone living in this space. Imagine waking up in a sleeping quarter below, then climbing into that upper glass room with your morning coffee, watching a mountain range pass at highway speed. That is not a motorhome experience. That is a yacht experience on land. The glass-to-body ratio on the side profile is extraordinary. For context, a standard luxury coach might have 40% glass coverage on the living side. The Nexus EVA drone looks closer to 65%. This is a concept designed to dissolve the boundary between inside and outside, and for a luxury RV designed around landscape travel, that philosophy makes complete sense. Aerodynamic shaping. The faceted body panels are not just a design statement. Each angled surface is working. Rather than smooth curves, which actually trap turbulence at panel edges, hard facets can be calculated to direct airflow predictably across the body. This is the same logic you see in stealth aircraft design. The geometry itself manages the aerodynamics. At the mass this 6x6 motorhome concept implies, we are likely looking at something in the 40 to 50 ton range fully loaded. Aerodynamic drag is the single biggest enemy of range. The designer seems to understand that. Every surface choice has a justification beyond the visual. Paint and surface finish. The finish here reads as a brushed titanium or raw aluminium over a steel structural shell, and the light behavior across these panels is remarkable to analyze, even in a render. The faceted geometry means the panels catch light at different angles simultaneously. One surface is in full reflection. The adjacent panel is in shadow. The vehicle looks different from every angle, and in motion it would look like it's constantly shifting. That is a design choice that communicates. This is not trying to be invisible. This concept wants to be seen. In the real world of off-grid motorhome design, that finished choice would also have a practical argument. Brushed metal surfaces are more forgiving of surface contact than high-gloss paint. For a vehicle built around remote travel, that is not a trivial point. Wheels and stance. 6 wheels. 3 axles. And the rim design, large, multi-spoke in gloss black, is clearly communicating all-terrain capability, not just boulevard presence. 6-wheel drive configuration is not common in motorhome design, but the logic is clear. Weight distribution across 6 contact points versus 4 fundamentally changes what surfaces this rolling mansion can access. Rocky terrain, loose gravel, compacted sand, surfaces that would strand a conventional Class A luxury motorhome become accessible. The concept is suggesting it goes places other luxury RVs simply cannot follow. The low-profile performance tire choice is slightly in tension with that off-road positioning, but this is a concept design. The intent reads as, "We can go anywhere, and we look extraordinary doing it." End of exterior cliffhanger. That is the exterior of the Nexus EVA drone. And I want to be honest with you. Analyzing the outside of this luxury motorhome concept has taken genuine effort because there is real depth in every decision here. But the exterior is not where this concept is most interesting. Because based on what these proportions and that 2-level roofline are telling me, what is happening inside this dream motorhome might be the most ambitious interior layout I have ever tried to decode. Let's find out. Approach: the detective method. We do not have interior renders of the Nexus EVA drone. So here is what we are going to do. Use the exterior as a witness. The exterior of a well-designed motorhome tells you almost everything about the interior if you know how to read it. Roofline height, glass placement, body length, axle positioning. These are all constraints that force interior decisions. Based on those signals, here is what I think is almost certainly happening inside this futuristic RV concept. Ceiling height and scale. Using the wheel diameter as a scale reference, those look like 33 to 35-inch rims, and working upward from the primary roofline, I am estimating a standing ceiling height of around 2.2 meters in the main living zone. That is residential. That is not something you crouch through. That is a space you live in. And then above that, the upper glass tier adds another level entirely. That second floor zone appears to have a ceiling height of around 1.6 meters, not full standing height, but absolute prime lounge or observation deck territory. In an electric motorhome concept of this ambition, I would design that upper level as a sky lounge. Curved bench seating on 3 sides, continuous glass, ambient lighting embedded in the frame edges. The kind of space where you sit and watch the world move around you. Zone layout: ground floor. Working from front to rear on the ground level, the logical zone breakdown for a vehicle of this length, I am estimating around 14 meters based on proportions, would be cockpit zone at the front, elevated slightly behind that aggressive windshield. In a luxury motorhome concept of this caliber, you're looking at a full digital instrument cluster, heads-up display projection, and almost certainly autonomous highway mode capability as a design hypothesis. The driver's position would feel less like operating a vehicle and more like commanding one. Behind the cockpit, a transition into the lounge zone. The side glass on this concept is continuous, which means the lounge would be flooded with natural light from both sides simultaneously. Imagine low, modular seating, not fixed coach chairs, but actual residential furniture in a layout that you configure to your trip. That is the design intent this glass ratio suggests. Midship: the kitchen. Induction cooking would be the only logical choice in a fully electric motorhome concept. No gas integration, fully sealed surfaces, premium appliance integration. The counter depth and overhead storage logic would follow from the exterior body width, which I estimate at around 2.8 meters internal. That is enough for a proper residential kitchen layout. Not a galley. A kitchen. Sleeping quarters. The rear zone is where it gets genuinely interesting, and this is the detail I mentioned at the start that I have not seen resolved quite like this before. The third axle positioning on the Nexus pushes the rear body further aft than a conventional motorhome. That extra rear overhang creates a private sleeping zone that is fully isolated from the main body, separated by what the exterior lines suggest is a structural transition wall with door access. The bed would sit across the full body width, a king orientation, positioned above the rear axle cluster. But here is what makes it unusual. The rear faceted body panels include upper glazing that appears to wrap around 3 sides of that sleeping zone. You would wake up in a bed surrounded by glass on 3 sides. At ground level in a wilderness camp, no traffic, no light pollution. That sleeping zone would be unlike anything else in the motorhome world. You are not sleeping in a vehicle. You are sleeping inside a glass room that happens to sit on wheels. I genuinely have not analyzed another motorhome design, real or fictional, that has resolved the rear sleeping zone this way. That is the detail I promised you at the start. Bathroom. Water management in a vehicle this size with an all-electric powertrain suggests a fully integrated graywater and blackwater system, probably with an onboard filtration module that extends off-grid capability significantly. The bathroom zone, based on the body proportions, would sit midship adjacent to the kitchen, the most sensible plumbing consolidation point. Walk-in shower is feasible at this body width. Not a stall. An actual shower enclosure with full standing room. Smart systems. For a luxury RV concept designed around smart RV technology, I would expect the Nexus to imagine a fully integrated climate and connectivity system. Learning your preferences across trips, managing solar input against battery draw automatically, predictive route planning that maps charging stops against your actual itinerary. The kind of system where the motorhome is actively participating in your journey, not just carrying you. Living in something like this would feel like this. Every system disappears. You never think about power management. You never think about climate. You never think about water reserves. The vehicle manages all of it. What you are left with is the experience, the landscape, the light, the movement. That is what the best off-grid motorhome design promises. The Nexus EVA drone concept seems to understand that completely. Let's talk about what would actually make this dream motorhome move. And I want to be clear up front. I am not inventing specifications here. I am applying the logic of real-world electric vehicle engineering to what this concept appears to be proposing. Propulsion. Why full electric? If this were ever engineered for reality, full electric is the only propulsion logic that fits. Here's why. A combustion powertrain at this vehicle mass, in the 40-plus ton range, requires complex multi-stage transmission systems, exhaust routing through a sealed living environment, and vibration management that actively works against the quiet luxury interior this concept is proposing. Electric motors have none of those problems. Silent operation. Instant torque delivery across all 6 driven wheels. Zero emissions inside the vehicle environment. For a luxury motorhome concept designed around living quality, electric is not an ideological choice. It is the engineering answer. Battery capacity. For context, the BYD electric coach platform, which handles a similar mass class, operates on roughly 500 to 600 kilowatt-hours of battery capacity. A real-world build scenario for the Nexus EVA drone would likely need something in that range or beyond to deliver meaningful range. We are probably talking 300 to 400 kilometers of highway range under ideal conditions. That is not Tesla car range. But for a vehicle where you are typically moving between destinations with days of stationary living in between, that range profile works completely differently. You drive for 3 hours. You camp for 3 days. The range requirements are fundamentally different from a daily commuter. Solar roof logic. That upper glass level changes the solar integration calculation significantly. If even a portion of that upper surface were integrated, photovoltaic and modern flexible solar film technology makes this feasible, you have a meaningful solar harvesting area that is not visible from the exterior. The solar system in a concept like this would not be the primary power source. It would be the off-grid interior system sustainer, keeping climate, connectivity, and lighting running during stationary camp without drawing on the main drive battery. Dual motor / 6-wheel drive. 3 axles, each likely independently driven by dedicated electric motors, gives this concept something no conventional luxury RV has: genuine multi-terrain capability with intelligent torque vectoring. In a near-future production scenario, you would be looking at an AI-managed traction system that distributes power wheel by wheel in real time. Rocky approach to a remote campsite that would strand any other luxury motorhome? The Nexus drives up it. What it does genuinely well. The rear sleeping zone. I have said it once and I will say it again. The decision to wrap 3 sides of the sleeping quarters in glazing, elevated above the rear axle cluster in that private aft section, is the single best design decision in this entire futuristic motorhome concept. It is the moment where the designer stopped thinking about a vehicle and started thinking about an experience. That distinction matters enormously in luxury motorhome design, and most concepts never make it. What seems impractical? The upper glass deck. I love the concept. A sky lounge on wheels is an extraordinary idea, and it is the reason this looks unlike any other luxury RV concept I have analyzed. But I think the designer may have underestimated the thermal management challenge. A continuous glass upper level in a full sun environment becomes a greenhouse. At motorhome scale, managing that solar heat load without destroying the interior climate experience would require an extremely sophisticated dynamic glazing system, electrochromic glass that can shift between transparent and opaque on demand. That technology exists. But it would be the most expensive component in this entire dream motorhome. And if it fails on day 3 in the Arizona desert, you have an uninhabitable upper deck for the rest of your trip. Most impressive detail. The faceted body geometry as an aerodynamic strategy. In design school terms, this is the most sophisticated move in the concept, because it solves 2 problems simultaneously. It creates a visual identity that is immediately unforgettable, and it does so through a geometry that has real aerodynamic justification. That is rare. Most concept designs make a visual choice and then engineer around it. This concept makes an engineering choice, and the visual identity emerges from it. That is the right order. One thing I would change: the wheel and tire specification. Those low-profile performance rims are communicating the wrong story for a concept that is proposing 6-wheel drive off-terrain capability. I would spec an all-terrain tire on a beadlock-capable wheel, something that signals the actual capability promise of that 6-axle drivetrain. The current wheel choice reads as Boulevard Luxury. The rest of the concept reads as Genuine Expedition Capability. Those 2 languages are in conflict, and it costs the design coherence. What it signals about luxury mobility. The Nexus Evidrone is proposing something that I think the entire motorhome industry needs to hear: that RV life does not have to be a compromise between capability and comfort. That a futuristic motorhome can go off-grid, access remote terrain, offer residential living quality, and look extraordinary doing all 3 simultaneously. The luxury motorhome of 2040 does not choose between those things. It refuses the choice entirely. It is a concept. It is fictional. It is AI-generated. And it is still one of the most resolved luxury motorhome design exercises I have worked through on this channel. Comment. One question before you go, and I genuinely want to hear your thinking on this. For off-grid living in a dream motorhome like the Nexus, Would you prioritize the extended solar roof coverage for longer autonomous camp time, or a larger primary battery for more driving range between destinations? Solar roof or bigger battery? Drop your answer below. I read every single one. Subscribe us. If this kind of design analysis, taking an AI-generated luxury RV concept and breaking down the engineering logic, the interior experience, and the design decisions that actually work versus the ones that don't, if that is the kind of content you came to YouTube for today, subscribing is simply the most efficient way to not miss the next one. No algorithm guarantees. That is just the most reliable path.